21st committee minutes if there are no amendments. Do I get a second for that? Herb? All in favor, aye? Carried. And we've got a couple presentations. Start off, we have one from Candy Aiken on County Assessor and Data Collection Services update.
Okay, so I did this presentation a couple of years ago, almost now, and so I just wanted to update everybody on where we're at with the county assessing and data collection services to the different towns. So Lewis County has just over 25,000 parcels. Currently, we have 4 sole appointed assessors. Our assessor pool is still shrinking. We aren't seeing the number of new assessors coming into the field as fast as the number of assessors are leaving for retirement mostly. September 30th this year is the end of the current county director and assessor's 6-year term. At that time, before or at that time, I have 2 anticipated retirements for this year. So the contract summary, there is a resolution in your packets for assessing services and data collection services. And these are costs that we have come up with that should cover the employees' salaries mostly. We're not looking to make money off the towns by offering these services, but at least covering our expenses that we do have going out the door for employees holding these positions. So we've come up with $10 per parcel for assessing services and $3.25 per parcel for data collection services. The contracts will also have included in them between a 2 and a 5% annual increase, and this would help cover the costs associated with employee raises and other costs that go up. These contracts would be annual contracts with a 60-day written termination clause included in them. And that would be for both the county or the township to terminate, not just the town side. The steps that we need to take to continue moving this forward, we have been having 2 new positions in our office as of last year. We hired 1 assessor who has 1 course remaining that he has taken in June to become a fully certified assessor. And we do have 1 data collector, and he has completed his data collection courses and has actively been out in the field working with some of the assessors to get some hands-on training. So the next thing that we do need to do is set the rates for assessing and data collection services, which would be passing the resolution authorizing the county to enter into agreements with the towns that are interested in this. Once we have that, then we can begin initiating the 1537 agreements, are what they're commonly called, because that's the section of law that gives the county and the towns the right to enter into these types of agreements. So here I just put together some of the other counties in the state that do offer county assessing services to towns. The red line is the $10 that we're proposing for Lewis County townships. And you can see, a couple are below that, some are a little above that. It just depends on where in the county you are. But we felt $10 was a fair amount, that we weren't going to be, as I said, having it be a moneymaker for the county, but at least covering our expenses. So the goals for 2025 is to enter into contracts with at least 3 towns for assessing services and to contract with at least 2 towns for data collection services. We're looking to assess at least 7,500 parcels. And I do have one town that is waiting for this resolution to pass, so we can enter into a contract with them for assessing services. They currently have a vacancy. And we do have one town, the town of Diana, is also looking at the county for data collection services. So once this is, if you go ahead and approve this, then we will certainly be beginning our contracts and heading for our 2025 goal. If you have any questions, I'll take them. Yes. That varies. Some of them are as low as $8 per parcel, and some are as high as like $13.40 a parcel. So we kind of are right in the middle on what assessors are charging per parcel.
I don't necessarily have a question. I would just like to speak on for the town of Cogan. We've heard a lot of positivity so far on what's been done there since they've had a vacancy and things that, when they say 2 years that hadn't been done. So a lot of stuff's been caught up and they're really appreciative.
Yes, Alan and Alex have both, their data collector and our assessor, they've both been kind of working outside the box right now in the town of Krogan. That way, in anticipation of this resolution passing, they can hopefully get some of the data that's been missing on the roll for the May 1 tentative assessment roll.
Have any of the towns expressed interest?
I have had a couple other towns express interest. I do know for sure that the town of Denmark plans to seek county assessing assistance when their assessor retires this year. And another town currently has an assessor, so if you wanted to discuss that further, I could do that kind of off the record. But I have been reached out by a couple of towns already for this service.
Any other questions for Candy?
I would like to just share the risk of this, which I don't think is extraordinary, but we do need 3 towns to make this worthwhile to pay the assessor that we currently have. We feel pretty strongly that that's going to happen. And we're obviously reassess this in the future, but we believe pretty strongly that we're going to have enough parcels to make it worthwhile. But we were hoping it would kind of all happen at once because all the assessors are up in September. Unfortunately, there's a few towns that need us to get going before September. So we're going to enter into an agreement here with one town, and then we hope that that'll happen later.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anything
Thank you.
else?
Thank you for all your
Thank you,
support.
Candy. And the next presentation is on a severity fund for workers' compensation. Cassandra?
Mr. Chairman, I think you better start your watch, make sure she doesn't go off.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a go. So I'm here to talk about an idea called a severity fund. Right now, we have a workers' comp excess liability policy. This is a commercial policy that we currently have through Midwest. It was up for renewal on January 1st, 2025. However, due to past audits not being completed and some concerns about the payroll amounts, they gave us a 3-month extension. So the 3-month extension is up as of April 1st. The cost in the past was $72,468. However, the renewal would be at $97,576. That is mostly due to payroll increases. We have a policy with a 2 million self-insured retention limit, which means the claim has to hit 2 million before we would see any workers' comp excess liability kick in. Before we would get any benefit, a claim would have to hit $2 million. This policy did include employer's liability coverage at a $1 million limit. Premium is based on estimated payroll by class code. And they did do, I want to say, yearly audits based on actual incurred payroll by class code, but there were a couple years where they skipped and they didn't do audits. And now they want to go back and do those, which is kind of where some of the confusion is. So here are some facts. Our current workers' comp fund balance is around $6 million. The largest claim that we've ever had was closed in 2016 at $722,000. There are currently 3 claims that we have that are over 500,000, which includes, so it's not their paid to date amount. The 500,000 would include the estimated costs going forward. But none of those 3 claims are covered under the current workers' comp excess liability policy because they all happened prior to 2019. We have the highest self-insured retention limit, which creates a lower premium. But again, it's that $2 million limit where a claim has to reach that in order for us to see any benefit. We don't have any control over the current premium, and we don't have any control of when or how the excess liability would kick in. So the idea of a severity fund was brought up to me, and the reason I'm bringing it to you is because it does give us control. It gives us control over the premium or the amount that we would build into the workers' comp budget annually that gets assessed on the towns and villages and any other participants. And it also allows us to decide on the when and how it's utilized. Each year, the premium can be adjusted depending on what the severity fund balance is. So if it's, the balance is really high, we can say we don't want to put any premium, or we don't want to put that line item in the budget. We're just going to leave it out this year. Or if it dips really low, we can increase the amount that we want to collect. So we have that kind of control over it. We would have to set a severity fund balance amount, obviously. And then the self-insured retention limits, we can choose anything we want, really. But some of the common ones are $750,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, and $2 million, which is the highest. And of course, we would set a policy on utilization. So right now, to date, the highest total paid claim, which is an open claim, is at $648,359.77, and the claimant is 91. The higher paid claims are typically older claims, meaning that it wasn't a lot of medical or indemnity paid out at once. It's paying out over a long period of time is how most of these claims have gotten to where they are, like the $200,000 range, the $300,000 range. A severity fund is really, and this is the same for the workers' comp excess liability policy, it's meant for catastrophic loss. With a severity fund, we have that, and we can use it for a catastrophic loss, but we also have the ability to help with higher paid claims. Like as a claim would reach a certain threshold, we could put it into our utilization policy that, we'll start paying 50% of the claim, or this fund will cover 100% of the claim. It gives us the flexibility to set our own rules and adjust them as needed. So the recommendation that I have would be to create a severity fund with a maximum balance of $2 million. We could set the self-insured retention limit at $750,000 or possibly less. Create a policy for utilization rules. Continue to add a budget charge of maybe $50,000 each year until the fund hits $2 million, Or once we hit that, we take it out of the budget unless it dips below 2 million. We do need to obtain an employer's liability policy with a $1 million limit, and that would be a standalone policy, and that shouldn't be any problem at all. And then I would, of course, monitor and report back to the board on the success. That's my quick presentation. Does anybody have any specific questions? Joan?
Did we pay anything out under that workers' comp excess liability? That
We
we've had
haven't-
all these years?
We haven't received any benefit since we started it in 2019. None of those claims have even come remotely close to a $2 million limit. But we've paid the premium of roughly $72,000 each year. Yes, Jeff? Yeah. We have a $6 million balance right now. So 4 million was kind of what the auditors had told us. I can't think of the word for it, but they came in and they evaluated our plan and they basically told us what we would need if our plan stopped tomorrow and we had to, pay out these claims. And that was roughly 4 million. So that gives us a $2 million excess, which we could put some of that in towards this severity fund balance and then just gradually charge the towns and villages. I don't want to overcharge the towns and villages. I don't want to make them pay too much because, we want the cost to them to remain stable and low.
Cassandra, is there
Yes.
anything else that limits the total payout on a claim? Is there any state regulation on that, or could a claim go to $3 or $4 million in some way?
Well, theoretically, a claim could go to whatever. I mean, if there's really high medical costs involved, there is a cap on the amount that you can receive for indemnity. It's based on a lot of different factors, but your average payroll and what the state has set for the maximum, all of that stuff. So that's kind of capped to a certain degree. And then most cases, once you hit medical maximum improvement, which is MMI, at that point, it kind of sets a clock and you can be paid, indemnity or lost time from work for so many weeks. And then once you get to the end point, that kind of shuts that part off. So really, when you're looking at it, it's really the medical. Like if somebody has a lot of severe medical issues that were caused by a claim, that could be a high claim. But luckily in the past, we haven't had anything that's been that difficult or major.
And I think maybe to note, and I think this goes back to some of your first comments on the increase in the higher payroll. The hospital's included in our plan, correct?
Yes, we do include the hospital. That is one of the entities we cover, along with all the fire departments, all the towns, all the villages, search and rescue, soil and water. I think those are all of our participants.
Any other questions or comments?
Thanks.
Now I guess we'll move on to draft resolutions.
Okay, the first one is authorizing a 3-year agreement with Shy International to provide Fortinet software licensing and maintain service protection for the county's cybersecurity system for the term commencing April 11th, 2025 through April 10th, 2028 at a cost not to exceed $75,000, which has been approved in the 2025 capital improvement plan budget.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the transfer of the approximate 0.44 acres of vacant land located immediately behind the one family resident of David C. Hodge and Michelle L. Smith located at 7458 Emmy Lane, Wobble, New York, tax map parcel number 195.00-02-15.300 to said named owners in consideration of the payment of $4,000, subject to the written consent and waiver of reversionary rights of the Lewis County Agricultural Society as required under the deed restrictions, and provided that the owners incur all costs and expenses of the transfer of title, including but not limited to any abstract of title fee, deed recording fees, and transfer taxes which may customarily be waived for the county.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the Planning and Community Development Department to submit the MEP and ATC funding request to the New York State Department of Transportation for the purchase of one wheelchair van, one 16-passenger lot G bus, 16 bus Wi-Fi modems, one bus stop shelter for the Lewis County JCC Education Center, and 75 bus stop signs for the Lewis County Public Transportation System, and directs the treasurer to appropriate the ATC, DASNY, and Win Denmark funds into the bus operations account lines.
Any questions or comments? Favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing an agreement with General Code LLC to digitally codify the county's local laws through local law number 5-2024 into the eCode 360 platform at a cost of $15,995, and with annual maintenance and licensing services of $1,195 as more fully set in its proposal dated January 30th, 2025, and directs the treasurer to pay the costs from the 2023 New York State Shared Services Account.
Any questions or comments? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department to submit a grant application to New York State Connect All under its Digital Equity Program Capacity Grant Program to continue to fund and expand the Lewis County Free Public Wi-Fi Program at an amount not to exceed $2 million, with a local share amount of 10% of the total project costs submitted.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department to submit a grant application to FEMA under its 2025 BRIC funding for road scoping of County Route 22, with project costs estimated to be $500,000 and a 25% required local share.
Any questions or comments? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department to submit a $500,000 grant application to New York State DEC under its Municipal Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Grant Program and a National Grid Make Ready Program application to purchase and install electric vehicle charging stations, with the project cost estimated to be $500,000, which requires a 20% local share that could be covered by National Grid Make Ready program funding.
Questions or comments? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department to submit a grant application up to $500,000 to U.S. Department of Transportation under its Protect funding program for East Martinsburg road improvements with no local required match.
Carried.
Authorizing the chair of the board to execute the short environmental assessment forms prepared by the Planning and Community Development Department, declaring that these actions and applications will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, then adopting the recommendations of the Lewis County Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board and Planning and Community Development Department, and placing the following parcel of land located in the town of Gregg, tax map parcel number 291.00-02-23.110, owned by William and Millie McLaughlin, approximately 163.4 acres, into agricultural district number 6.
Questions or comments? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
accepting the proposal and authorizing an agreement with Samsara for vehicle cameras, data equipment, and licensing services for a portion of the county's vehicle fleet as more fully detailed and set forth in the proposal dated January 23rd, 2025, for a total cost of $21,146.40 for the first year and $20,990.40 per year for the second and third years.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing intermunicipal agreements for data collection and/or assessment services with such towns as may be interested in the provision of such services with such terms and provisions as the county attorney may recommend, setting the first year rate commencing April 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2026 at $3.25 per parcel for data collection services and $10 per parcel for assessment services. The county shall have the right to increase the rates between 2 and 5% on an annual basis, with any renewals subject to said rate increases.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Directing the treasurer to adjust, apportion, and charge back a total of $10,071.26 to various towns who have franchise agreements with Time Warner Cable, which allowed them to deduct from taxes the franchise paid to the towns.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Urging approval of home rule request and to adopt New York State Senate Bill number S 4858 and companion Assembly Bill number A 5514. That was the late resolution that I passed out.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried. And I'll make a motion to approve and adopt the 2025 Finance and Rules Committee goals for the sheet that everybody got earlier. Do I have a second? Herb, all in favor? Carried. And the second motion is to authorize the administrator of the Lewis County Self-Insurance Fund to set up a severity fund by April 1st, 2025, obtain an employer's liability policy by April 1st, 2025, and then cancel the Midwest WC excess liability policy by April 1st, 2025. That's what we just had a presentation on. I make that as a motion. Do I have a second? Herb, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. We don't have an executive session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Jeff, second. Herb, all in favor? We are adjourned.